I graduated from the Lebanese University Institute of Fine Arts in 1975. I was mostly inspired by was the American abstract expressionism movement. It was mainly about creating sort of semi-abstract images and in a spontaneous, direct brushstroke treatment. And that was, for me, what is living the process of creating art. The beginning of the war in 1975 actually shocked me. I stopped painting for 2 years. I resumed my painting only when I settled in Rabat. And then came the big question that marked the change in my style, because I was wondering what is the purpose of the art I was doing. I felt that I can't detach myself from tackling the issue of war or the issue of human conflict in general that was taking place in my country. I abandoned direct brushstroke painting on the support. I wanted to have sort of a mechanical look, as if because to compensate or create certain balance between my over emotional and worrying situation about worrying condition about the situation in my country and the absurdity of what's going on, the shocking absurdity of what's going on. I also felt that photography as such is an excellent means to help me do my new work. I mean, like basing or introducing photography in my work. I'm not talking about artistic photography, because artistic photography is complete. You can do anything to it. I'm talking about rather journalistic snapshots or casual photos, because these photos are not meant to be artistic, so they give themselves to you as an artist to build on them. I didn't want actually to use the technique of collage in this work, like taking a picture in a magazine, cut it, and simply paste it to the support. I used a magnifying lens and looked at the printed image and noticed that it is composed of dots. The closer the dots are together, the darker the area, the more spaced they are, the lighter the area. So I said, okay, I got the technical drawing pen, 0.1, and I started imitating the effect of a photograph by creating dots to create what looks like a photographic image, part of the paper I'm painting on. Another element that used to appear in my earlier work at the Beaux-Arts at the Lebanese University, but then it took a more substantial and basic role in my new work, which is the introduction of written words. Because if you are communicating and then you are with a viewer, or basically you're communicating with yourself at the beginning because the viewer sees the painting, there are too many means or ways of communication. Written word is one of them. So why not, since you can elaborate on the channels of communication by adding a written statement next to a visual eyeball element. It worked well, especially that the written words themselves has shapes, had forms, and has colors. So they share many assets with the rest of the elements in the painting. And that's how this bulk of work was created. And then in 1979, I brought this work back to Lebanon, and I had my first personal art exhibition in Beirut, in Gallery Rencontre. The gallery is closed now. After that, directly, when I graduated from the Lebanese University, I got a scholarship to continue my study abroad. So I could get my admission to the Slade School of Fine Art in London to continue my study, mainly this time in printmaking, like in the art of making etchings, silkscreen printing, and lithography. And probably the reason I wanted to shift into this domain is because I wanted to use the photograph as such in my work, the photograph as an objective sort of transition of reality where you get the facts of what's going on. As for the worry or the statement of my artworks then, it continued to be commentaries upon the war that was still going on in Lebanon, and it was also about going a bit larger to talk about or to observe the conflicts between nations, between individuals, human beings in general. I mean, when you talk about a conflict, this conflict has the same nature with little variation, whether it is between countries, or between individuals. It's the concept of fight, the concept of clash. One of the works I did was a combined technique of etching and silkscreen printing, entitled The Dream of Wartime, in which I took photos from different sources. Like the top part of the work is dominated by an image, a fragmented image of a soldier on a tank with a machine gun, and the lower part is dominated mainly by images of females. Now, this issue of gender, like I like to consider that aggression is related to males, while kindness and peaceful being is related to female. So as if, and also the bitter fact when I feel that men are dominating females, or men are dominating women. I mean, woman is the victim of the male chauvinism attitude. So there is a picture of an older woman and a younger one crossing the museum crossing between East and West Beirut. I took from, I forgot, from a book or from a newspaper. The image next to it was actually a shot from a play that was presented by Lebanese actors and directors, now I can't remember who, in Paris. And the image to the right is, it's not very clear in the work, but it is one of the earliest photos that were ever took around 1850 when the camera was invented. And I'm not sure if it's by Nadar or someone else, but it represents a group of nude women, like arranged in a setting that looked very much like the paintings that were done at that time, because photography at the beginning of the days of photography tended, in order to gain presence, to imitate the compositions that were used by artists of that time. So a photograph in many ways looked like a painting. So you have gaps of time, you have gaps of moods put together at the lower part of the work with this image on top. Beirut is a print that I did because I wanted to look at, from a distance, at the history of the city. It features a map of Beirut done in 1876 on the top part of it. And it features like I am crossing or going back in history to 551 AD, I believe, when a major earthquake destroyed Beirut, and it destroyed the famous law school then. And I read in some reference that a ship was sailing towards Beirut. The inscription in the middle part of the painting is actually a verse by the Greek poet who was on board of the ship, and it reads, "Do ye who pass me by bewail my fate and shed a tear on Berytus that is no more." So he was lamenting the situation of the city, and I found certain similarity between what happened then and how this time it's not a natural disaster, it's we ourselves are destroying our own city. And the sort of circular element to the left actually is composed of fragments of arches of Roman architecture that was in Beirut then. The center part is occupied by an image of Hamra Street, where people actually who lost their shops turned the street into a market, as if I'm observing different stages of the conditions of the city since then till now. One of the works I did also was simply silk screen, and it's called Escapism, and it is about fleeing away. It's about running away from conflicts. There is an image of a bird, like a bird is flying away. This is simple and direct a bit, but it's not that obvious in the work. This work also features two pictures that I took from a certain book about the images of war in Lebanon. The images are two sequential photos took during the war that shows an incident where apparently a woman got her husband kidnapped by some militia men, and she was running away from the car shouting. So it is escaping from a stressful condition or escaping towards a peaceful, resolving a conflict. This work was done in, I think, 83, and it has some personal reasons where I lost my girlfriend then in the explosion event of the American embassy in April 18, 1983, I think. So once again, the war is the theme of my work, but this time in this particular work, it hit me personally. And I wanted to go on expressing this theme, so I had the scene of the blown up embassy in the background with an image of my friend's car that showed in a picture by accident. The picture was published in An-Nahar. And I went actually to the archives of the Nahar and was looking for if there was any picture showing a specific car, and I could find the picture, so I had it put next to it. It had two VHS tapes, because once again, my friend was leaving her shop, leaving her office for a short while to exchange or to rent a VHS tape, and came back, and I think in her way, driving back simply, the explosion took place and she passed away. I looked in the ruins of the car, and I found these two tapes, and they were about a movie a shot in the dark. Funnily enough, this movie is a sort of a comedy, but it has a drama sort of title. Of course, the image of the heart representing love would be a stupid thing to put, but if you put the image of the heart as an anatomical organ of the body, then you are more elaborate about your choice and not very direct. And that's how this image works out. They have the effect of bullets, actually, that I dag in the metal sheet itself before I ink it and print it. When I think of Beirut as a city and how it went through all these experiences through history, how this city was sort of targeted by invaders, all type of invaders. And this work is about revisiting Beirut. For the invader, going into Beirut is visiting, actually, is an act of visiting, no matter about the nature of a visit, but it is a visit. So I am revisiting Beirut by commenting upon the situation, but at the same time, this country is being invaded again. And you have ruins, you have images of rows of invading soldiers in the middle, and you have images of two women that are dancing or performing as if it is a pleasant promenade, just going in and out, because the soldiers are arranged in this direction and the opposite direction, and people are clapping at the bottom. There is a line of clapping hands. So the intensity of any dreadful situation has also a sense of sarcasm, a sense of absurdity that sometimes makes you sort of probably like a defense mechanism to take it lightly.